Physical pain hurts for a moment, but regret hurts for a lifetime. And this is a story about a potential that never lived, about a relationship that never came true, about a life that slipped through the fingers. Brokeback Mountain centers around the 20-year-long bond of Ennis Del Mar, a rugged, quiet, and introverted cowboy played by Heath Ledger, and Jack Twist, an extroverted, loud rodeo cowboy played by Jake Gyllenhaal. They come to the middle of nowhere beneath the Brokeback Mountain in Wyoming to herd sheep during the summer for a guy named Aguirre. They slowly create a bond over the tedious tasks they have to do. Sleep with the sheep in the cold instead in the camp. Hunt coyotes, avoid bears, and survive on horrible food. On one drunken night, Ennis ends up sleeping outside freezing. That's when Jack invites him to the tent to keep warm. One thing led to another and they end up doing it. They both state that they're not queer at their next breakfast and continue doing their job like nothing happened. However, they continue their romance while on the mountain. After about 2 months, their job ends abruptly because of a snowstorm, and they come down from the mountain to get paid and go their separate ways. Ennis marries his longtime girlfriend Alma, and Jack moves to Texas where he meets and marries Lorene, and the mountain all seems like a distant memory. Until one day, Jack sends a letter to Ennis and he says that he'll come and visit. And after 4 years, they reunite again, but now as married men with children. However, that doesn't stop them as their romance rekindles. And so we follow their 3 to 4 yearly meetings that happen near Brokeback Mountain for almost 20 years until Jack passes away, marked as an accident at the side of the road. And the last scene we see is Ennis saying to his daughter that he will attend her wedding. That's it, that's the plot. The movie is a slow burner, setting the stage to a harsh life both men led up to Brokeback Mountain. Their life leading up to the job wasn't much and continued to be so when they came down from it. The mountain for them was a fairy tale escape, something they didn't thought that they deserve in life. Ennis' parents left him nothing and he was raised by a brother and a sister who ditched him as soon as it was convenient for them. Jack was a constant disappointment to his father, trying to become a rodeo cowboy with no guidance, skill, or mentorship from his father. Although young, their lives had a downward trajectory where they were just scraping by. The mountain was a different place for them, and when they reunited 4 years later, they brought back the magic of that first encounter back to their lives. Ennis was all about unused potential. He was turned inwardly and never allowed any expression to come from him. After they first came down from the mountain and said their farewells, Ennis started walking home completely unfazed of what has happened. But then he jumped to the first alley he saw and simply crumbled down in tears and started vomiting. This is the first time that we saw him express any real emotion. He barely talks and he keeps his emotions deep within himself. He struggles a lot in his life, trying to hold a steady job to feed his family, but he fails constantly, living on the edge of existence. As he tells Jack in their last encounter, he is nothing, he is nowhere. Ennis' struggle is about allowing himself to be who he is in all facets of his life. He can't be there for his family, for his job, for his life. And the only thing giving him hope that one day things can be different is the one thing that he constantly rejects: a life worth living with Jack. He's stuck in a limbo, paralyzed to make a decision that would give him a life worth living. That's why he's nothing, he's nowhere, because he's waiting for this thing with Jack to resolve itself, one way or another. Jack, on the other hand, is a dreamer. Jack marries to a wealthy family in Texas and simply transfers the hatred and disappointment he received from his father to his father-in-law and partially to his wife. So Jack starts focusing on the life he could have had with Ennis. He constantly peppers Ennis to take the plunge, to go together and live it out. Jack believes in Ennis's excuses: the marriage, the wife, the children. But the last straw that breaks the camel's back is when Ennis gets divorced and he still doesn't go with Jack, marking the point where Jack loses all hope. That's where Jack starts going around and finding other men to fulfill his needs, whether it's male prostitutes in Mexico or a foreman from a business dinner that invited him to his cabin. It's only at Jack's and Ennis's last encounter, where they both crumble down in tears, that Jack says that he simply has never enough time with Ennis, but keeps coming back to him because he can't stand it otherwise. After this encounter, Ennis gets a return postcard that states how Jack was in a car accident and that he choked on his blood long before anyone could come to his rescue. The movie left this situation ambiguous without us knowing how Jack really lost his life, and Ennis, after learning this, visits Jack's parents. His mother knew who Ennis was because Jack mentioned him all the time, so he goes into his room and finds the shirt he thought he lost the first time they met at Brokeback. Jack saved it through all these years. Ennis takes the shirt and puts it in his closet, along with a picture of Brokeback Mountain saying to it, "Jack, I swear." The casting for this movie was superb. The supporting roles were filled with experienced actors such as Michelle Williams, Anne Hathaway, and Randy Quaid. Jake Gyllenhaal did an amazing job, but the spotlight has to go to Heath Ledger's Ennis. He was so immersed in the role of the introverted rancher that he was spot on with the uncomfortable look in his eyes, the small body language, the contracted mimics, and the slight speech impediment. It was a perfect cover that made Ennis seem invisible to society at large. Ledger didn't play Ennis for this movie. He became Ennis Del Mar for this movie. We see a glimpse of the life that could have been, a life that never materialized because it was never the right time, a life that could have been but never was. And it's this regret that hurts the most when experiencing this movie. The missed opportunities over and over again because of different things used as reasons. We don't see love conquering. We see it stumble down because of too many obstacles on the way. Brokeback Mountain ended up being Jack and Ennis's summer fling that they kept returning to until it ended as a distant memory of a life that could have been.